This presentation covers the basics of APA format that are necessary for the CDFS 412 paper. Students should view this clip after the video on using PsycInfo and before attempting the APA References List assignment in Learning Module 3. You need 6 essential pieces of information for each article reference in APA format. You need the names of the authors, the year the article was published, the full title of the article, the complete journal name, the volume number of the journal in which the article was published, and the article's page numbers. For most articles, all of this information is available on the first page of the article, as it is in this example. This example is for an article with one author. So here, down at the bottom, the author's name. Second, the year of publication, up towards the top. In the middle, the full article title. Back up towards the top, that full journal name. Up at the top, the journal volume number and issue number. The pointer is actually a little off here. It's the 17 and the 1 followed by the parentheses. And then last but not least, the full first and last page numbers. So here's this article's reference represented in APA style. So all of those 6 pieces of information are represented here in this APA format reference for this single author article. Now first we have the first author's last name, then a comma, and then their first and middle initials. A period comes after each initial, and there's a space separating the initial. Then, next, put the publication year in parentheses, followed by a period. There should be a space before that first parenthesis, and another space following that period after the close parenthesis. Next, type the entire title. Capitalize only the first word in the title, as well as any proper nouns, such as American, and the first word in the second part of a 2-part title. I'll show you how that will look in the next example. Now, end that article title with a period, and have, once again, a space after that period. Next, type the full journal name and place a comma directly after the journal name. All important words in the journal name should also be capitalized. Next, type the volume number for this article and place a comma directly after the number. There should be a space between the comma after the journal name and the volume number. Now, after the comma after the volume number, add a space and then type the first and last page numbers of the article. Separate these with 1 hyphen. End the reference with a period after that final page number. Now the last step, go back and italicize the journal name and the volume number. The comma between the name and the number should also be italicized. Now about the issue number. A version 6 of APA format is somewhat confusing when you're first getting used to it. The main issue of confusion surrounds the volume issue number, which needs to be included in some circumstances but not others. Now note that I didn't include it in the reference on the last screen. This is because it wasn't necessary for this reference. It's only necessary when journals are paginated in a very specific way, and this is called being paginated by issue. And what this means is that every issue of that journal's volume starts at page 1, just like magazines do. Now, APA style journals, such as the Journal of Research in Adolescence, they're not paginated by issue. Now, the issue number gets listed on the journal, the printed versions of the journal itself, but they're not actually needed in the references for those articles. In fact, they're so rarely needed, I think I've only needed to use them twice in over 10 years of using APA style. So don't stress about including the issue number because you probably don't need it. However, you will lose points if you include it when you don't need it. But of course, I'll be giving you feedback about this as we go along with assignments. Now, if we're looking at an article that has 2 or more authors, we get the same information. And since this is an article from the same journal as before, the information is laid out pretty much the same way as it was in the first example. So we have our author's names. We have the year that the article was published. We have the article title, which in this example is in 2 parts. We have the journal name. We have the journal volume number and issue number. And we have those first and last page numbers once again. So here's what this article's reference would look like. Now notice the layout, the information, the basic format are the same, with just some small tweaks for this article with 2 authors. So once again, you would list the first author's last name, then a comma, and then their first and middle initials. A period comes after each initial once again, but this time there's a comma after that first author's middle initial, and it's followed by an ampersand, which is the and sign, and then you follow the exact same format for the name of the second author. The only difference is no comma comes after their first initial. You just keep that period and then move right on to the publication year. Now the publication year is formatted in parentheses exactly like it was for an article with 1 author. So there should still be that space before the parenthesis, and there should still be that space after the period. Then you should have the entire title, same rules as before, only capitalize the first word in each part of the title. So what that means is capitalize self and capitalize the T in the second part. The journal name gets formatted the exact same way. It also gets italicized, same thing with the volume number. And then we have the first and last page numbers, just as before for the single author article. Now things get a little bit different with articles with more authors. So if there were 3 authors all the way on up to 6 authors, the same basic format applies. So here we have a journal article with 6 authors listed. The format is exactly the same. The only difference is that and sign comes in between the 5th and the 6th authors. So that and sign should always be in between the second to last and last authors. Everything else is the same. Now if you have 7 or more authors, the rules change slightly. If it has 7 or more authors, list the first 6 exactly like you would for any other article. But then instead of listing the rest of the authors, you add what are called ellipses, which I've circled right here on the slide. Now these are those 3 periods. Now there's a space before them and there's a space after them. But we insert those there right before the final authors on the article, just to signify that there are additional authors that are not listed on this reference. Everything else remains exactly the same. Now all references should be listed on their own page of a paper. There should be no other part of a paper that appears on this references page. Now this page should have the word references typed at the top. It should be centered. No quotation marks are necessary. On this list, references are listed in alphabetical order by each article's first author's last name. Now this is why it's important to keep the author's names in the order that they're listed on the article. This signifies who gets the most credit for doing each part of the study. So list the names. There should be no numbers, as you sometimes will see in medical journals. We don't use numbering in APA format. Now the entire page should be double-spaced, just like the rest of your paper, but all of the references should have what's called the hanging indent. The easy way to get this is described here, but I'll also depict how to do it on the next couple of slides. So first, type your references list, ignoring the indent for the time being. Next, highlight this text and then right-click on top of that highlighted portion of the text. Then select Paragraph from the menu that pops up. In the Paragraph menu, click the Indents and Spacing tab and look for the Indentation submenu. Toward the right, there will be a box labeled Special. Pull down this menu and select Hanging. Then click OK. When you exit this menu, the text you highlighted should now have the hanging indent. So here's an example of what a finished references list should look like. There's another example references page provided for you in the short guide to APA format that's available to you on eCampus.